Hello, this topic is C++ data structures. We also call them structs, and I'm going to try a new format. Instead of typing like crazy in front of you, I'm going to try showing you a PowerPoint that I put together and see how that works. Also, a couple of sample programs. A data structure is a user-defined data type which allows you to combine data items of different kinds. These days there's a lot of emphasis on data in programming, and we use what are called relational databases. Some of you may be taking a database class right now to learn about those. When C++ started, it was called C. And, well, actually before it started. And the C language did not have any objects, and they did not have any databases. And so if they wanted a way to access data, they would use what's known as a data structure. We still use those when the data is not too extensive or too complicated. In that case, we go ahead and use a relational database. But you will see how this works. Now, we call it a user-defined data type. And what we mean by that is, let's see, we've been using ints and floats and doubles and bools, and those are what we call built-in data types. They come with the language. In addition, we've been using classes, which is another data type. And what classes have we been using? We used vector, and we created vector objects. In program 5, we used OFStream, which is a stream class, and we created an output stream object. What we're going to do in a struct is create like a table of data attributes, and it's going to be whatever type we declare it to be. So let's see how that works. If we were going to create a struct about books, we would want certain attributes. Maybe the title, the author, the subject, and then there's always a book ID. Okay? So here's how we define a structure. We use the struct statement. That is a keyword, and it allows you to define the new data type. And it has more than one member. So here is the general definition. Struct, structure tag. This kind of doesn't make any sense. So let's look at an example. Here is struct. This is the keyword. Books is our tag, and it says what we're going to be identifying. Okay, so books have a title. A title is a string. So these are data types that we're using. And by the way, let's remember that string is a class. And whenever we create a string, this is actually an object. Title, author, and subject. Here's an integer, the book ID. And one way we can do it is we can say book is going to be a variable of the book's type. Just like title is a variable of the string type, author is a variable of the string type, subject is a string, and book ID is a variable of the int type. The difference is this time we're the ones just declaring what the variable type is, and it's going to be called books. To access a member of a structure, we use the member access operator, the dot operator. And we've been using that already. We used it with classes and objects. When we create an object, we use the dot operator to access usually functions. There aren't any functions in structs, but there are other items of data. So here we are. This is going to be our driver file right here. Pound include IOStream using namespace standard, and we're declaring the books struct. String title, string author, string subject, int book ID. And the end of the brackets, the curly braces, requires a semicolon. We use that a lot anyway. So continuing in the driver, we have int main. So we have put the struct up above int main, just like we could do a function prototype. But main has to have seen it in order to use the struct. So here's int main, and now we're creating struct variables. Struct books book 1, struct books book 2. So this would be like string, name, vector, well, not vector, how about a stream, and then OF stream output. OF stream output. So we have declared book 1, but there's no data in it. So this is how we load the data. book1.title, C++ programming today. book1.author, Barbara Johnston. book1.subject, C++ programming. And here's an ID number, 6495407. Okay? Book 2 is going to have different specifications, has to do with telecom billing, a different author, a different topic, and a different number. So you see, we can collect information about a variable called books, and we can give it a name, book 1, and it will have this information. It's very handy. Sometimes you need to have more than one thing about a topic. So let's continue with how we could use this struct. We can print the book info. Book 1 title is book1.title. Book 1 author is book1.author. Subject is book1.subject. And ID is book 1 book ID. So you see, the complete variable name is the struct variable, which we declared over here. See the struct variable? We did it over here too. The complete variable name is struct variable plus the variable inside the struct that we're describing. So we use the same variables to print the information. So input and output uses the same variables. Here's another sample program. This is a student struct. Struct student. A student would have a string name, string address, string ID number, int department code, and int major. Okay, so now let me show you some program examples. Okay, the first program is called Jack's Race, and this is the driver of the program, jacksrace.cpp. We include IOStream and string and using namespace. Here is our struct. This time we have a person struct, and we define a person as having a name, a sex, and we explain that. M equals male, F equals female, an age, a category. These are for racers. Racers are grouped by age, such as 1 is 0 to 9, 2 is 10 to 19, etc. So basically a number per decade. And the last struct variable is the race. Races have an integer code, 1 for 5K, 2 for 10K, 3 for marathon. And here is our struct declaration. Okay, let's look at main. Now we can declare a person variable runner. We don't always have to use the variable struct. You can always put it in if you want to, but C++ knows that it is a struct. Sometimes we add it just to be clear that we are using a struct and not a class. But anyway, we have declared a person variable runner right here. On your marks, get set, and now we fill the runner and time information. Runner.name is Jack Rabbit, sex is male, age is 17, category is 2, and race is 1, so he's in the 5K race. And then we write out the information. Runner's name is runner.name, sex is runner.sex, age is runner.age, age category is runner.category, and race code is runner.race. And then we give encouragement. So let's see what this will look like. Okay, we're compiling and getting ready to run our program. I'm compiling without debugging, and as does happen sometimes, it's taking a moment or two. It says we're ready. I'm ready for my console window. Anytime. Okay, finally, here it came. On your marks, get set, runner's name Jack Rabbit, sex, age, age category, and race code. So you see, structs are really good for handling groups of data. Let's look at another example. Okay, this is not an example of a struct, but it's to remind us about how we handle passing by reference. So here is our int main, and I have two function prototypes. One is called give me one float, and here's what the function looks like. You literally ask for a number and return the number. We've been doing that a lot. Then we have another function called give me one more float, and this is going to allow us access to the variable because we are passing the address to the function. Remember, when we do that, then the variable is not copied, just the address is copied, and this and the value is automatically placed in the variable. So let's look at that function. Give me one more float. Here is the reference. Enter a favorite number. If this is the address of our number, then this is our number. And when we do that, this is whatever number the user inputs, immediately that value is assigned to that variable, and that variable is the same one that is called from main. So let's take a look at main. Here is float my favorite number. So we can call give me one float, and it will return a float which we will assign into my favorite number, and we will see out my favorite number is my favorite number. Let me make that a little bigger. Using, oh, that's not pointers, that's using references. We're going to call the second function, give me one more float, and we're going to pass my favorite number, this same variable, and we pass it without any ampersand because we're passing to a reference, and C++ knows that. Okay, and this time we are calling this function, and let's see what that does for us. Okay, enter a favorite number. I like 42. All right, my favorite number is 42. Enter another favorite number, 99.99, and my other favorite number is 99. So that is two ways that we can pass information. The first by value, where we copy the value of the variable, and the second is by reference, right here. So I showed you this to remind you about how to pass by reference, because we are going to pass structs by reference to functions. And I will show you how that works in the next sample program. This program wants us to fill a student struct in a function, and we're going to pass by reference. So let's look at what we have. Here is our int main. And we're going to use functions.h and functions.cpp. So let's look at functions.h. The first thing I have is, what did I forget in functions.h? Can anybody tell me? Yes. If pound not defined, functions.h, pound, define it. I don't think I really need that one. I'm just going to use those. And then at the end, I'm going to finish my if statement with an end if. Okay, so here's my functions.h. I'm going to include string because I have strings in the struct. This is a very convenient way of handling structs. We declare them in the functions.h. Since that's included in main, then main gets to see the struct. Here is a student struct, name, social security number, a department, and a GPA. And then we have a function. Void gets student info. Student here is the name of the struct, and we are passing a reference to that struct to the function. Let's take a look at the function. Functions.cpp only has this one function in it. If you were writing your own program, of course, it would have more, but this is just a demo. So we are passing this struct, the student struct, by reference. And so my student is the name of the struct variable. So you can use it to see in. Now in this case, we didn't want to see in directly into the variable. You can certainly do that. And it works perfectly well. But some people like to see in into temporary or buffer variables or to getLine. So anyway, here we are. We get the student name, the student's social security number, which is then assigned into the struct variable, the student's GPA, and the student's department. Okay, now let's look at the driver. We're including functions.h and IOStream since we're couting here. And we've created a struct variable, myStudent. First we call getStudentInfo, and we pass myStudent to this function. And then, since it's passed by reference, all of those values that we got in the function are in the struct right now, and we can output the information from the struct. Let's see how that looks. Enter the student's name, Bob White. Enter the student's social security number, 56789. Oops, too many. I think that's what a social security number looks like. Enter the GPA. Oh, this is a very smart student. We're going to say it's 3.9. And the student's department is going to be department number 1. That's programming. Okay, so here's our information right here. And that is how we handle structs and passing them to functions. This will be good information for you to use for program 6. Bye now.